Chapter 1. The Night Before Christmas. Well, that's Western art for you. 1,000 years of crucifixions, then stripes. A visitor to the National Gallery, London, as reported on Twitter, 2017. 1,000 years of crucifixions, then stripes. As a summary of the history of Western art, it goes without saying that this statement is ridiculously reductionistic. Did I mention this was on Twitter? But still, have you been to the National Gallery? If you were to whiz through its Western art section and then write a tweet-length summary, you might struggle to improve on this quote. Behind the humor, the quip gets at something remarkable. Jesus Christ, and especially his gruesome death, has towered above Western civilization. The cross is the most globally recognized symbol, certainly of religion, but perhaps of anything. This fact is remarkable not just for the scale of the impact, but for the event that is being commemorated. An outsider to Christianity and its art might expect depictions of Christ's birth to predominate, or his baptism, or anything really, anything other than his violent death. The idea of presenting a tortured man as art is subversive to say the least. To claim, as Christians do, that the man on the cross was God is the most revolutionary notion the world has ever entertained. One of the signs that we are children of this particular revolution is the fact that we can stroll through the climate-controlled corridors of a gallery and, upon entering the religious wing, proceed to nod sagely at dozens of depictions of death by torture. Ah, sacred art, we sigh. For the most part, this incongruity goes unnoticed. Yet this only proves the immense impact of the Jesus movement. The way we see the cross has been revolutionized because the cross has revolutionized the way we see. To make my point, let me contrast the sacred art of the National Gallery with a much older portrayal of the cross. The earliest surviving depiction of Christ's crucifixion is a piece of graffiti mocking the strange new cult called Christianity. It was found scratched into the plaster of a wall on Rome's Palatine Hill. The graffiti shows a figure on a cross with the body of a man and the head of a donkey. Standing by the cross is a devotee with his hand raised in veneration. The caption says it all. Alexamenos worships his god. Comedy doesn't always hold up over time, but the mockery here hits its mark. It hits its mark today just as powerfully as it would have done 2,000 years ago. The message is clear. A man on a cross is not a god. He's an ass. Anyone who venerates such a figure is a fool at best and probably perverse. It's worth asking ourselves the question, who sees the cross more clearly? The Roman mocker or the sacred artist? As we press into this topic, we will consider that we are the weird ones. In this chapter, we will step into the sandals of the Romans to see the world as they saw it. No Roman would show a casual appreciation of crucifixion. Their reaction would be as different to ours as night is to day. If the coming of Christ has been a new dawn, Christians certainly think so, then this chapter explores the nighttime before that first Christmas. The slave's death. Wretched is the loss of one's good name in the public courts. Wretched, too, a monetary fine exacted from one's property. And wretched is exile. But the executioner, the veiling of heads, and the very word cross, let them all be far removed from not only the bodies of Roman citizens, but even from their thoughts, their eyes, and their ears. The mere mention of them is unworthy of a Roman citizen and a free man. So said Cicero, 106 to 43 BC, one of history's greatest orators. Notice here the concern for honor and the disdain of shame. Worthiness and wretchedness were the heaven and hell of the ancient world. To Cicero and his peers, one's good name, one's citizenship, one's free status were paramount. To lose them was to lose everything. No wonder, then, that the very mention of the cross was a horror to Cicero. Crucifixion was, of course, extremely painful. We get our word excruciating from the Latin ex crucis, from the cross. Yet more than this, it was humiliating. To be impaled naked before the watching world was as undignified an end as the Romans could devise. And the shame was a large part of the point. To us, the cross has become a sacred symbol, and as such embodies the very opposite of its ancient meaning. Even if we're not religious ourselves, we might understand the cross to be a symbol of redemption, salvation, God's presence even among the lowly, and God's peace even amid our pain. In the ancient world, it meant the reverse. It symbolized degradation, worthlessness, unremitting torture, and unredeemed loss. The extreme penalty, according to Roman historian Tacitus. Corpses cut down from the cross would routinely be cast into a ditch to be pecked at by birds and eaten by dogs. Those crucified were garbage. The cross was the slave's punishment. Roman society, as with every ancient culture, was arranged as a vertiginously steep hierarchy. That hierarchy was not simply one of rank or role, it was a hierarchy of being. The punishments of the state were an expression and an enforcement of this hierarchy. Certain classes of people could not be crucified, and certain classes could. Cicero called crucifixion the most miserable and most painful punishment appropriate to slaves alone. While it was proper to crucify slaves, Cicero went on to discuss the horrors of an incident when a Roman citizen had been mistakenly crucified. Quote, "It is a crime to bind a Roman citizen. To scourge him is a wickedness. To put him to death is almost parricide, that is, killing a parent. What shall I say of crucifying him? So guilty an action cannot by any possibility be adequately expressed by any name bad enough for it." Close quote. Crucifixion was either appropriate or an unspeakable evil, depending on who was on the cross.